Hello there, I'm Mabel Dungeons, and today I'm going to be introducing you to a 2D platformer by the name of Flyin. Flynn? I'm pretty sure it's Flyin? Something along those lines. Anyway, the game is, as I mentioned, a 2D platformer with some heavy puzzle elements. The gameplay you'll get right from the start, right from the first level and right from the first world, well, it starts out pretty simple. You can jump, double jump, and then glide around, and then finally you have a button to press to switch the whole world around into an alternate universe where all the colors are different, so it has that artistic value, while adding to the gameplay by making certain platforms appear and disappear as you switch between the two different worlds. So you're going to need to constantly be switching between these worlds in order to solve the puzzles the game will present you with and to platform to where you need to go. So that whole world switching mechanic is not something that is unique and completely new to video games. We've seen it before, and we've seen it actually pretty recently in the Giana Sisters game that recently came out, and it is another 2D platformer that's pretty similar. However, as you play on in this game, you'll unlock up to 4 characters. Now, each of these characters actually has their own special ability, and I'm now realizing that I didn't even mention the ability of your starting character. Now, your starting character is this little blue guy that has the special move of singing. Now, his music will unlock different things in the world. It will activate different things. It will make blocks float up. It'll do all kinds of things which are mainly useful for the puzzle solving kind of thing. And generally, when your character has to activate something with a song, it actually will not be free. It will take energy to do so. So you'll actually need to find that somewhere in the world and then use that ball of energy when singing, which will consume the ball and put it apparently into the object you're singing about. And after that first character, as the game goes on, there will be 3 more characters that you can unlock. I'm gonna go over them now because they are quite important to the game, so if you don't feel like being spoiled by them, then I'm sorry, but I'm probably just gonna have to talk about them a lot, so this isn't gonna be the video for you. So I'm giving you a warning now, just close this video down if you do not want spoilers about the characters, which are unlocked gradually. The second character that you will have access to is this green sprite that will actually be able to stick to walls. So he'll be able to use a special ability when near any wall that isn't made out of lava or something deadly to stick to it and then crawl on it, so you can go sideways or upside down, and it leads to some pretty cool puzzle solving as well as some pretty cool platforming, having to jump from block to block, from empty space to empty space in order to get to the spots that aren't covered in something deadly, without having to necessarily limit yourself to gravity. The third character that is unlocked is this black little sprite, which will be able to transform into a ball. This ball, as you'd expect, will bounce, so it is a very good way of getting really high jumps, but it will bounce less on the second try, so in order to get maximum potential out of it, you actually need to go out of ball form and then back into ball form in order to get those big jumps. Now, this might be an annoyance or considered unnecessary, except for the ball's other capability, which is the ability to go in and through lava without dying, which no other character can do, so it is unique for that purpose, and makes it so you're going to have some cool timing things where you're gonna have to time the right time to go into ball form and to go out of ball form in order to get through different sections of the game. And then there's the final character, which is this yellow bird type, which will be able to actually stop in midair and then shoot in one direction quite a distance. you can actually shoot 3 times in a row. So this enables you to go quite the high distance, as well as just maneuver your way through some pretty tricky obstacles in ways that you really couldn't have with any of the other characters. So with those 4 characters in mind, you can not actually switch to them at any time. Instead, there's a system where you have these little balls that are kind of checkpoints and kind of limitations. So each ball will have 1 or multiple exits, and those exits will have colors. So you can sometimes just do a section with 1 character, sometimes do a section with multiple characters. Often there will be these big maps where you will have to do 1 section with 1 character, 1 section with another character, and then from those two, from what you did in those 2 sections, it will unlock the 3rd section, which you'll do with a 3rd character. Overall, it leads to some pretty interesting gameplay where you'll have to think quite a bit. Unfortunately, this full gameplay, doesn't really happen until the later 4th of the game, because you will only have a maximum of 3 characters for the rest. So if you think you'll get some enjoyment out of the first part of the game, then I'd recommend it. But if you are going to be bored by just having 1 character, then I wouldn't really recommend it, because first impressions, first looks at things are very important, as it's not really worth it to waste your time grinding through gameplay you don't enjoy just to get to what you do enjoy. Sometimes it is. If it's a really fun game overall, then it is. So it's really a personal decision on your part, but I must warn you, the game has a very slow pace and a slow introduction to these 4 characters, so buyer beware. On the other hand, if I'm gonna look into the good side of that, it must be that the game has a very good introduction of new mechanics. There's going to be something new you'll see, probably on every level. There'll be at least something on an aesthetic standpoint that you'll be able to see every level, and usually some kind of new mechanic, as well as some use of old ones, so you'll be able to figure out some new way to use your abilities on most levels. There is a solid pace for introduction of new mechanics, so I'd say if you enjoy the first level of the game, which I personally did, then you probably will not get bored of it. And I've played through it at this point. I have beaten the main game, and I really enjoyed it. In terms of difficulty, I'd say it is pretty solid. It depends obviously on how good you are at platforming and how good you are at games, but I'd say in general the difficulty in both the platforming sections and the puzzle sections increases at a good rate along with the rest of the game. So it really does have that good essence of scaling and pacing that a game should have. There are some parts where you'll die, and parts that might be construed as really unfair kind of deaths. Things such as something randomly falling out of the sky and hitting you in the face, killing you instantly. But the thing about that is that checkpoints are usually pretty close in between, and you will be able to respawn immediately. There is no actual life count, so there is no limit to the amount of times you can die. All they'll do is affect your score in the end. I'll talk about score in a little bit. Oftentimes as well, nothing will actually reset when you hit a checkpoint, so if you complete some objective that you need to do and then die immediately, you will respawn right back and then keep on going with that actually done. And in a few cases, as you do have a button to go back to the last respawn point, you'll actually make use of that by opening something up, getting stuck, and then going back to the checkpoint and going on top of what you just moved or whatever you did. I suppose I should mention the game's story, even though I cannot say I dove deeply into this game's lore. All I really know is that some evil character that seems to be a hairdryer is apparently polluting the world, killing these trees, and so these trees decide to send out these I guess they're seeds of some kind with these magical powers in order to stop the evil Hairdryer. And that comes to an interesting conclusion once you finish the game, which of course I will not spoil, but is quite hilarious. The game's story has this visual style to go along with it that is quite stylized, and I personally like it. If you don't like it, then that's your prerogative, but just take a look at this video, and that's what it is. The game is a 2D platformer in essence, and it doesn't have anything extremely fancy in terms of graphics, but I quite enjoyed the art style, and I enjoy the music as well. The music is good, the general sound design is pretty solid, and altogether those two things add a lot to the game. And even when you are kind of frustrated with the game itself, you have some pretty cool stuff to look at, considering you don't only have one set of a world to look at, you have actually two. And something I forgot to mention is that when you switch between different worlds, between different parallel universes or whatever they are, the sound actually changes a little bit. It won't change completely to a different song. It will stay in the same song you're in, but some instruments will go away or come in, and it will be kind of a different style. Which I can't believe I almost forgot to mention, as that is probably the best part of the sound in this game. I should probably talk about the whole ratio between platforming and puzzle elements of the game. Flying has good platforming to it. The jumping feels good. It has that solid, and that's combined with some pretty challenging sections where you will need to time your jumping and aim your jumping quite right. There are, of course, no real enemies in the game, so other than basic platforming, the other thing you'll be doing is solving these elaborate puzzles to get through a level. The levels are mostly vertical, and there are two real kinds of levels. The first kind are these levels that are quite timed, and you'll always have this lava coming up from the bottom at a set rate, and you'll need to go up and climb up faster than that lava gets to you. These game levels are mainly focused on the platforming aspect and just getting through a level really fast. The other kind of level is this larger level where there's no lava coming up after you. You have all the time you really want, and you use that time to solve the puzzles. Now, there's some variety in how these puzzles work. They are kind of interesting. You just go through different places, you use different characters to unlock different parts. Often in the later game where you have all four characters, what we've done is you'll be using the later three characters to collect different magic balls, and then you'll have that first character use his special ability to sing his way through different obstacles. You'll make elevators go up, you'll make doorways open, all kinds of different things. They make you think, and I'd say probably in my whole playthrough there was a good 5 times or so where I just was frustrated and was stumped for about 5 minutes, but that is mainly just me and my ability to completely not see extremely obvious things, which is why I am not that great at puzzle games or puzzles in general, and is also why I don't really like that there are actually more of those puzzle levels than there are of the timed lava going up levels. I would have liked to see a third kind of level where there's another kind of level that makes you focus more on platforming without the whole lava thing. However, even with that said, I still enjoyed some of the puzzles quite a bit, and they did enhance the experience, and I don't think it'd be the same game without them, as they teach you some pretty interesting ways to use these 4 characters that you have access to. They also influence the boss battles that you'll have in the game, which tend to follow the same formula. What you'll have is some kind of outdoor fight where you'll be fighting some kind of giant robot kind of thing, and you'll have to use the abilities of whatever character you were using in that world, whatever character that world introduced. And then once you beat that outdoors robot, you'll always actually go inside the robot, and that's where you'll need to solve some kind of puzzle
in order to blow that thing up. I really do like that kind of boss design, and I think it is quite fun. There was one boss, I believe it was the boss set in the world of that Leafy character, where I was not really clear what to do at all, and it took me maybe 10 minutes to figure out how to actually beat that guy. It could just be my stupidity, but I don't think that it was really shown in a clear way how to do that fight. Otherwise though, I think the bosses in this game were some of the best parts of it, and added together with the rest of it, it all leads to an extremely fun game, and just a great experience if you enjoy platforming games. If you want to know about the time for money, well, looking at my Steam right now, it took me about 16 hours to beat the main game. I'd say if you were speedrunning this thing and you actually already knew how to solve everything, then it might take 3-4 hours. I don't know. The thing is, after you beat the main game, there are actually different bonus levels for each character that can be unlocked by completing certain unnecessary objectives in different levels of the game. Generally, these objectives come from beating a level without dying once. And I just took a look at a couple of these bonus levels, although I have not completed any yet. They seem to be extremely challenging, like more so than any of the puzzles in the game. One of the ones I looked at had this pretty extensive maze of pods, and it seemed to be pretty challenging. So if you're the kind of person that likes to solve puzzles, which I am not exactly, then this could be a challenging and fun experience for you. The other kind of time extension that you'd get out of this game is the replayability that it offers. Now, there are actually different objectives you can do. As I mentioned, you can go through a level again and try to beat it without dying once in order to unlock levels. But the other thing you can do is complete in the online scoreboard. There'll be a leaderboard which you'll be able to get a higher score on by activating these cool little side things that you generally activate by singing. Once activated, some cute little event will happen, and then you'll get these little seeds, floating baubles, something like that. I haven't actually mentioned them, but they are everywhere in the level, and they are the main thing that will determine your score, as well as those side objectives, getting extra energy balls by the end of the map, and then completing it in the shortest amount of time possible. So if you're the kind of person that's really into getting those high scores, then this can also be a game for you, and I might even try to get a couple nice scores, at least on the levels that I really liked. As a final note, you can play this game pretty easily with a keyboard and mouse, or you can play it on a gamepad. I played the whole thing on a gamepad, other than just a half hour with a mouse and keyboard, just to make sure it worked fine. And it does work fine, but I would recommend playing on a gamepad, as I'd recommend that with almost any platformer in the world. Overall, Fly-In is a tight experience with great platforming, great level design, great, interesting puzzles, all packaged together with a wrapping of good visuals and quite the good music. It has that pacing that some would consider slow, but it also leads to a good introduction of new mechanics that will keep you interested in the game and never bored. You can get Fly-In for $10 or your regional equivalent on Steam today. And with that said, I believe this is probably one of the longest introduction videos I've done. I don't normally play through a whole game for these videos, but I really enjoyed this one and I just wanted to play this game. So I did, and that is probably why I had so much to talk about here. Maybe I should complete games a little more often. On the other hand, if you'd like me to keep it a little more concise and you would like some more shorter videos, then please let me know. Thank you so much for watching, guys. For more variety gaming content, you can subscribe to my channel. I've been Maple Dungeons, and I'll see you next time.